I've done so many things for you. Please, would you just do this for me? I can't do that for you.
LaBeef is swinging through vines. I've let you have that. But
I've let you have the vines.
I'm not going to subtitle these fucking prairie dogs. It's just...
I let you get rid of Darabont. I can't do the subtitles, man. I can't do it. And then Harrison Ford walked in, and it was just like, did someone say subtitles? Let's do that.
I let you feed Karen Allen salvia. I let you do this, but we cannot subtitle the prairie dogs.
I think that Karen Allen saw Shia LaBeouf. They probably filmed that last sequence first. You know how they do that a lot of times when they're filming a movie. They'll film the last scene.
Yeah.
They filmed the hat sequence, and she watched it, and she's like, "Shit, I gotta get fucked up. Oh, I gotta do some salvia because this is fucking." Oh, he's chasing it. He's gonna be the next Indiana Jones. Come on, guys. Even Stevens and shit.
There's so many other, not only unproduced movies or whatever, but just Indiana Jones projects. There's one that Chris Columbus wrote called The Monkey King. There's one that this guy Jeb Stewart wrote that was even more alien-y, Indiana Jones and the Saucer Men from Mars.
When I first read that name, I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And then I started thinking about the fact that like the first three indies were based on like the old serials, like the old radio shows. Like, that's like what it's based on, is that old-timey idea. If they went and did one that was more, like, based on the B-movies of that era, it might be watchable. It'd be a total shift. It would be completely different. But that, in theory, we've done two movies about religion and one that kind of hints at faith and religion and stuff. Why not go, like, throwback B-movie like that? But... I'm not
opposed to it. I'm not opposed to Indiana Jones with aliens.
My instant reaction to the name, though, was like, who the fuck would okay that? Like, who would even think about making that? How did that name even become something that people know existed?
Lucas likes to smoke weed. It's right? He definitely gets high, and he's like, how about aliens?
Oh, that was a good Lucas. That's a much better Lucas. That was really good.
You know what's great about Lucas? I just watched this documentary not too long ago. I think it's called Empire of Dreams, about the making of the first 3 Star Wars movies. And in it, he admits basically he became Darth Vader. He started out as this young whippersnapper of a filmmaker who wanted to do it outside of the Hollywood system. And he was so innovative and amazing that he ended up influencing the system that he didn't even want to be a part of in such a major way.
And then just became the king of it.
Then became the king of the corporation. So he basically, in his own like occult, weird way in his life, became a Darth Vader character.
And he kind of is the villain of the film industry at this point.
And even to Star Wars fans, I mean, like, do you
right.
think the Star Wars fans wanted and liked those special editions? I mean, some do. But when I saw Hayden Christensen at the end of the Return of the Jedi special edition, I threw my mac and cheese at the screen. I said, what the hell is this?
You're fucking take my mac and cheese. You threw it at the screen.
It doesn't make any sense.
It does not.
And the poor actor who was... Anakin Skywalker, he erased him from history. I mean, show some respect, Lucas. I love you, but stop smoking the weed. All right, everybody, we are here with a legend. I was his personal assistant. I then produced a couple of movies for him. He's a genius. He is the creator of The Toxic Avenger and the president of Troma Entertainment, Mr. Lloyd Kaufman. Hello, Lloyd.
Well, I think that the one thing left out, Mr. John Brennan, is that I, Lloyd Kaufman, a.k.a. Uncle Lloydie, has identified Mr. John Brennan as a major talent and snapped him up and gave him 4 years of boot camp from which his genius, sensitivity, and artistic vision can emerge and flower as it should.
Well, that's the truth. I mean, before I came to Troma, I was very narrow-minded as far as what I wanted to do in the industry. And I got to tell you, any aspiring filmmakers out there, if you are local or even not local and you could get to New York and work with Troma as an enterprise observer or more, it's one of the greatest things you could do for your filmmaking career, in all honesty.
Well, thank you, John. And also thank you and Justin Martell and Matt Vangeridis, Troma alumni, who have reinvigorated the career of Joe Bob Briggs, my favorite movie journalist. And I mean, you've saved the day there. I mean, Shutter itself, the channel. You've benefited Shutter tremendously by creating the new Joe Bob Briggs show, which is at least twice has broken the internet.
Thank you.
It's amazingly. The Troma fans are so excited about it. Yeah. In fact, I'm a little jealous that a lot of the women, especially Groovy, what's her name?
Groovy Witch.
Groovy. Groovy Ghoul. Groovy. Yeah, she's. I think she likes Joe Bob much better than Uncle Lloydie.
Never. I'm just a song and dance man over there, so. I'll always, my heart will always be in Tromaville. Let's put it that way.
Yay! Well, thank you, and again, thank you so much for producing #Shakespeare Shitstorm, and also, I think you play about 18 different parts in the movie, Mr. John Brennan. So thank you so much for that, and I think the movie going public is going to recognize #Shakespeare Shitstorm as a very fine. Production, thanks to you and Justin Martell.
Thank you so much. Well, we're going to seek out some theatrical distribution for that. So I saw an interview that you did with the Angry Video Game Nerd where you referred to Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull as Indiana Jones Skullfucker. Now, I know why you did that. It's because Indiana Jones basically was responsible for squeezing Poultrygeist out of theaters. Is this true?
Well, first of all, Indiana Jones Skullfucker was not a good movie.
Right.
So
agreed.
But what personally, because I'm a narcissist, so everything is personal in my case. I'm looking at a geranium right now that's kind of half dead, and it's personal as far as I'm concerned. Now, we were going to open Poultrygeist in New York at the Village Cinema, which is a beautiful theater down in the East Village, and we had two theaters. That was our lead theater, and all I wanted to do was it was a week before the festival, before the movie opened, and normally the theater permits you to put a poster up in the theater so that the point of purchase customers will look at the poster and say, "Wow, Troma's movie's coming. I'm going to buy a ticket for next week." But the Tribeca Film Festival apparently, because they're in that theater that week, forbid any other movies to be promoted. And the Tribeca Film Festival, of course, is getting lots of taxpayer-funded money because it's encouraging independent movies. Meanwhile, the Tribeca Film Festival, being supported by you and me as taxpayers, is not permitting the oldest independent movie studio in the world from hanging a fucking poster in a movie theater that has 12 screens and 5 floors of wall space. Would it have hurt Robert De Niro and Harvey Weinstein? Would it have hurt them to put up a Poultrygeist poster? Fuck them. Fuck them. Anyway, the result of that was I put on a chicken. There's a Colonel Cluck costume in Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. That's sort of the symbol of the fast food chain, American Chicken Bunker. And I put that costume on since we saved it. And I went down to the theater and hung out in front of the theater and handed out leaflets. Since I couldn't put up the poster, I did it. I couldn't find anybody, so I did it myself. And Richard Johnson of the New York Post wrote it up and put it on page 6 in the New York Post. So how nice was Richard Johnson?
Amazing. And look, Lloyd, I don't care what anybody says. James Brown was not the hardest working man in show business. It's Lloyd Kaufman. Who else who runs a movie studio puts on a chicken costume to promote their own movie?
Well, I have to admit, I had a huge erection. I have a little bit of I'm not exactly a Furby, but, a furry, rather.
A furry, yes.
I'm a little bit foul. There's something about chickens that. In fact, when I was in Africa, I had heard tell that there were people who copulated with chickens.
Oh my
Now
God.
I never did, but I came close. We with a sheep. Because sheep have the vagina that fits closest to the woman, and luckily, at the age of 19, I was able to satisfy myself with a human. But I came mighty close to that sheep. I think it was a sheep.
A couple of
Either
guys,
a sheep or a goat.
Yeah, a couple of guys that I worked with when I was a janitor. One guy was from Russia, and he said the same thing, that apparently the sheep is the closest to the human vagina, and he said that the way that you're supposed to make sure that they don't run away is that you wear really high boots and then put their hind legs inside the boots.
When I lived in equatorial Africa, where it got to be about 150 in the shade at times of the year, there were no boots. No, we had no. We didn't have any boots, but we didn't need them. I was much better looking in those days, so I walked by a goat, man. And, if a goat, especially when they were penned up and they were kind of alone and a little bit, horny. I looked pretty good in short shorts.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that they were goat calling you. All right, so I wanted to ask you because we like to talk about unmade, unproduced movies that sort of fell apart or had different sorts of scripts and then got developed into another iteration. Like we're gonna hit on Stanley Kubrick's Napoleon, which is basically a full script and project that Kubrick researched and put together and then never shot. So I know that you have a few projects throughout your history, illustrious history at Troma and as a filmmaker, that you developed and just never got in before cameras. So I want to ask you about a few of those.
Well, let me ask you let me just mention one quick title.
Sure.
You and I know, John, I don't even have to ask you, but I know that you will recognize Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as a masterpiece.
Absolutely.
I agree. It is it is the best movie I've seen in a long time. It is wonderful. And I think we need to say that. And I was involved with a movie from the 70s, very early 70s, maybe 1970, starring Troy Donahue, called Sweet Savior, in which I play Squeegee, and I was production manager, and Troma distributed. Sweet Savior. And Quentin's Theater played it not too long ago, like last week. And 2 weeks ago. And Larry Karajinsky, a prominent screenwriter who I worship.
Ed Wood. He did a lot of movies, yeah.
Yes, among Keane and many others. He's the best. But he saw Sweet Savior at Quentin's Theater, the New Beverly, and he said something about he couldn't help thinking Troma was it had Troma's fingerprints or my fingerprints or something. but it's an interesting movie. It's because it's totally independent. In those days you could make a movie for $100,000 and you could get it out there. And Sweet Savior played on Broadway and 47th Street, I want to say, at a big theater, with a big marquee. And then there was trouble because the name Sweet Savior, in those days, they didn't like the idea. Any religious kind of stuff was taboo. And now, no problem. Now you can, unfortunately, we could use a little more Judeo-Christian morality. But in those days, if you even hinted, look what happened to Scorsese with his Jesus movie, right?
Absolutely.
Different world now. Now it's going too far the other way, in my opinion.
I think there was a big hubbub when Brian Wilson used the word God in his song, God Only Knows.
Isn't that something?
So okay, I'm going to name some of these titles that you, throughout the years, again, say yes or no whether or not you want to talk to them. First,
sure.
Congressman. What is Congressman?
Congressman was an idea that Stan Lee and I had to create a superhero. And this was, I think, in the 90s. And we got a guy to write a script. Somehow it never happened, but it would be a good one now. It was something to do, and again, I don't remember it too well, but I had a thing where, what the hell it was something going on with Congress. But this would be a guy who fell into the that basin that Wilbur Mills and Fanny, what's her name, fell into. I think it's in front of the Washington Monument.